In this session over at GroupBy, Aaron Nelson's going to be talking about SQL Server and PowerShell. So take it away, Aaron.
All right. Thank you very much, Brent. I've got my information down at the bottom of the slides, and on this one I'm going to go to the next one, and it's got quite a bit of my info as soon as it transitions over. I'm on LinkedIn. That's my real email, email address. I'm on Twitter, and you can get my tech blog at sqlvariant.com. I have a very short list of slides to show you today, and one of them I only point out because I'm actually going to be using it so that I can make sure that I send you exactly what I show today. And that is start-transcript. That's a commandlet that you can put in your profile. I put it in my profile. Every time I fire up PowerShell, start transcript starts running, and every command and every error message that I get gets recorded there. I'm going to use this and I'll be able to post all the code. I do recommend that you consider setting a output directory for it. That's one of the options. And that way, especially if you're learning and you get something to work and then 2 weeks later you need to use it again, you haven't used it in the last 2 weeks, and you're like, how did I get it to work that time? You can go back to your transcript from 2 weeks ago and be able to sort it out. So what else? I am the leader of the PowerShell virtual chapter of PASS. Myself, Chrissy Lemaire, Martin, I can't pronounce his last name, from down in New Zealand, and Australia, and the other one's Rob Sewell, right? So SQLPS.io/YouTube or SQLPS.io/videos, either link will work. Take you to our YouTube channel. We've got 28 videos out there on how to use PowerShell and SQL Server. Almost all of them from a different speaker. We've had very little repeats lately. We're happy to add more people to the list. Our current we haven't committed to it yet, but it looks like our current lineup for doing once a month plus 2 bonus sessions we slipped in is going to take us till August to exhaust. If you want to get on the list to speak at that chapter, please go ahead and hit us up now, because if you wait, the lineup will probably be even longer. And SQLPS.io SQLPS.io/Slack. That's the short link you can get to the Slack channel that Brent was mentioning earlier. And this is the last slide I've got for you. It's just so that you can go do some spelunking around. I would highly recommend that you go ahead and take a screen capture of this slide. It's how you teach yourself PowerShell, how you get around. These commandlets are how you can discover things inside of PowerShell. Get help, obviously it gets the help, but the help files in PowerShell are very, very, there's a lot of information. There's a certain construct to them. Get command gets you information about commands. You can also throw some additional parameters on there. If we have time, we'll squeeze that one in. Get member, very important. Everything in PowerShell is an object, and so you need to know how to objectify things. I think that's what they call it. And then get item. Get item is how you grab something, and honorable mentions, especially for us as SQL people, definitely piping things over to a select star instead of doing get member so you can see the data. That helps. And then also get type. That should be .get type. I think PowerPoint stole that out of there and removed it for me. Must have thought I was doing a typo. But that is it. Like I said, last chance to get a screenshot of this. This will definitely help you. And PowerShell ISE, where are we? There we go. And oops, not switching just yet. We'll actually do full window. Are you seeing anything yet, Brent?
Yep, there we go. Perfect.
Very
nice,
good.
Nice, baby.
Okay, good. So this was going to be that demo where I showed you. I was going to do, all right, Brent, I'm ready. I'm almost ready, but I got to go clean out my hard drive's out of space, and I need to get it out. And so this is actually pretty cool because it shoots over to your downloads folder and then fires up and out grid view command, which you may have heard of recently.
Yeah,
and you can sort by length, either way, and then so that way you can grab the ones that are the largest and say, hey, I want to go ahead and I want to delete all those. So we could do that if we wanted to. So that was going to be it, but then I had to my mic stopped
Reboot.
Reboot, you know.
Good idea, though. I like that. That makes sense. That's a good use case.
So let me actually bring up, I'm going to switch around real quick. I'm going to actually start in Management Studio. So let me just switch to just showing my entire desktop. Screen one. Sorry for the delay.
No, no.
And let me know if you can see.
Got your whole desktop, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to just crush my machine real quick with a whole bunch of queries. So PowerShell, how to PowerShell. Anything that you can see in Management Studio, you're going to be able to do in PowerShell. All these pieces of information you're going to be able to work with in PowerShell. You actually know a lot about SQL PowerShell if you've been using SSMS for the last 11 and a half years, because this is aptly named Object Explorer, and I think it was in 2008 they introduced this Object Explorer Details, and Object Explorer lets you see the object. Object Explorer Details basically lets you see the properties of the object. You don't always get to see all the properties. Sometimes you get to see more in PowerShell. Got some examples of that for you, but that's kind of it. We've got this thing it's called the SQL PowerShell Provider, and it essentially, people like to say, oh, it turns a hard drive and allows you to access SQL Server that way. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's technically right, but what if I said, well, it takes Object Explorer and allows you to do command line of whatever you're doing in Object Explorer? Would that make more sense than saying that it's a hard drive? Because to me, I would relate more myself to Object Explorer because I use it every day, really. Anything that you see here on one of these objects, again, if you right-click up here, very important, you can add columns here. Anything you can see here, you're going to be able to access in PowerShell. Anything that you can see down here, when you click on a single item, you'll be able to access that in PowerShell. Why would you want to access that in PowerShell? Brent, I don't know if you've ever run into this, but I've run into it before. Previous company I worked at, where we actually had a database where the index space used was greater than the data space used.
Sure, absolutely.
And you can go even further down on that, and you can go into tables, and you can say, I want to know my data space used on my tables. I want to know my index space used on my tables. You can add all these columns. All you have to do is right-click and just add them. Pretty easy to do. And sorry, just making sure I'm in the right spot here.
And it's funny. So somebody, SQL Sorcerer says, what's that green icon over there that you have on air stats? Why is that database icon different?
So that's my feeble attempt at trying to get into GitHub the easy way with using the Redgate tool for source control.
Gotcha.
So here we go. That's much better. Let me click on it one more time, and then I'll pause so it can have time to refresh. Here's some tables for you. I'm actually going to be querying and demoing some of the stuff here. What if you went into an organization, or you're just hired as a new DBA, and they think things are decent with their databases, but they could use some improvement. They want you to look around, and you start looking around, and you're like, I don't like what I see, and I need to know just how big is this problem. And you say, I want to see every table where the index space used, like this one, is larger than the data space used. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just throw that into a where clause and just say, every table? Yeah, that'd be good. And then I want to see the indexes, and I want to get the full definition of those indexes. That's a piece of cake in PowerShell. We'll show you some of that. But that's one way to get your mind spinning about maybe where you could implement PowerShell and where you might have a use case for it already. Like Brent, you said you don't do but one instance at a time usually. Well, hopefully that might be a good use case of where it would help, because you'll be able to do this right across databases. You can hit all the databases all at once, and you can throw in funny things that you're looking for. You could look for certain data type columns, or look for Robert Davis had a very good one the other day about looking for tables that have the exact same name but have an underscore with like backup or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
So that could be helpful. But let me show you some core things here. You can start PowerShell from here. The navigation is very similar. Sorry, I should go down one more level. Databases, we could start PowerShell. It's easier to see it on that one. And then as this works just like Object Explorer and queries. So if you do a new query from here and you're on a database, it's going to start that new query in the database that you right-clicked on and said, I want to do a new query. The same thing's going on with PowerShell, except that if you go down to the table level and you say, I want to start PowerShell, it's going to start PowerShell there in the tables folder. All right. Hopefully that helps explain the provider a little bit, and now we can dive into this GroupBy session. Let's start with easy, just easy peasy warm-up. Where are my backups getting stored? I can ask this SQL Server drive that I told you about. I've got it loaded up in my session. So I can say, go over to this SQL Server drive. I rebooted, so that means the default instance isn't
started. Yeah, sure.
Let me go start that real quick.
That makes sense.
Whoops, sorry.
This is the fun of being a presenter, is you have all these different things that you want to set up exactly perfectly before a session starts. And I remember there was one session I was literally running down the hall to get to because I was late, and I tripped and my laptop fell and closed and powered down. I'm like, oh, I gotta start up all my VMs. Yep.
So here we go. I'm navigating into my instance, localhost default. Very similar to the way I was in Object Explorer a minute ago. If I do a dir here, I actually see more than I see in Object Explorer, which is good information to have. One of the things that are on here is databases, just like I have in Object Explorer. But I can grab other stuff that's not easily readily available in Object Explorer. Like I can just put this dot on here and say, go tell me where the backup directory is. So I say, what is it? And it tells me this is right where it is. I can also do fancy things. And by fancy, I don't really mean super fancy. I mean sarcastic fancy. I can do fancy things like, say, invoke item. And since that's a directory, it's going to say, oh, well, I guess you want to see that. And it popped it up on the other screen, of course. And it just took me straight into my backup directory.
Oh, that's good.
So I've got all my backups here. They're looking good. We can go ahead and chance it and just get rid of all of them. And hopefully everything's going to still be able to work. I wrote an article, got published last week, about you can back up your databases easier in PowerShell than you can in SQL Server. I was very specific about the way I worded that title. I didn't want people to go off and start replacing their management plans just yet. But if you want to do an ad hoc backup of one or multiple databases, it can certainly be faster in PowerShell. So when we back up the databases, I'm going to turn my compression option on. We want to skip tempdb, and basically I'm going to say get SQL database, or transversely I could be here and I could just say dir in my databases directory, and it'd give me my list of databases, and then I could pump that in over to this backup database command and just do it from there. So either way works, get SQL database, or doing a dir once you're in the databases directory, or saying dir and then giving it the full location. I think I covered all those examples in there. I'm going to go ahead and back up my databases right now because I kind of need them for another example here in just a minute. While that's going on, my databases should be
progress bars.
Yeah. They're pretty good. Don't get carried away with them. They can, just like anything, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, But yeah, they're great progress bars in there. And anything, you can say write progress on any command that you build yourself if you've got a way of telling it what the progress is.
Okay.
So looks like it's on the big database right now. Let me just go down to that so you can see it's going to take a minute here to back that up. While that's doing that, let's do another fun command. I'll have to pop this open because I got this tied up. You know what's coming, Brent?
No.
You don't know who we're about to hear from?
I know it's YouTube with Grant Fritchie, but I don't know which one it is.
Yes.
It's either that or Rick Astley, one of the two, depending on how lucky you feel.
I thought about doing that.
on the restore. If you're not testing your backups through a restore process, you don't know what you've got. Therefore, you'll be back online whining at me, oh, I can't get my restores to run. That's because you're not verifying your backups. So get out there and get it done.
Love how he jogs off there at the end.
And it's sad but true. I mean, so many people out there are just like, oh, no, I'm doing backups. They're all good. I'm fine.
Yep. So, well, it's still going. That's the thing about GoToWebinar. Everything runs slower when you are using it.
Especially with video, when it's burning CPU time doing video. It's totally true.
Exactly. So my next demo is going to be simply to go and verify my backups with a very simple command. Test DBA last backup. It's a command, not a commandlet. It's from the DBA Tools open source project. It goes through, it will test it, and it will do a verify only, as you're seeing here. And I'm piping the results out to out grid view so that I can see them as they happen. And what's very, very cool about it, and I'm going to do this invoke item with the default file location real quick, and I'll just pop that up in another command window. What's very, very cool about it is it essentially does that restore with verify only. Lovely, what did I mess up? Oh, I don't have... This is what happens when you call an audible. When you do the verify only, it just basically restores the database. Once it says, okay, everything's fine, it goes ahead and deletes it, and then gets out of there. So we'll just try that one more time. All right, there we go. See, I'm just unafraid to fail here. So this is my file. I'm in the file directory, default file location, and what should normally happen is that you should be able to see it. I was testing this earlier, and my Surface Book has got a super fast hard drive, and all but one of my databases are really small, and it was happening so fast I had to bring up Power BI and be running visualizations to get it to slow down enough to actually be able to see it. I'm thinking that once GoToWebinar is running, that'll be all I need to do. So
especially with the backup, yeah.
Yeah, so that is all done. So I'll go ahead and do this right now, and hopefully everything will go exactly like I expected. But this is my first time ever demoing it to any audience. But what could possibly go wrong?
How bad? How hard could it be?
Yeah, how hard could Chrissy did it like 3 times yesterday. How hard could it be? There you go. You see the verifying in process in the background. Yeah, let me just, that's the more important. And what's, it's giving you the output one at a time as it's going, and it's giving you all the output, all the information about it, letting you know what's going on, what directory it used. That way you can log this information. And if someone says, hey, did you test the backups? And you say yes, and they go, well, something's broken. You didn't test the backups. You can say, well, no, here's the log file. And actually, since I did this inside of PowerShell with a start transcript, I actually I already have a log that, yes, I did do it, and here's the backup file that I used. Here's when it was restored. They've got the verify successful result. All that stuff.
Chrissy says, please ask Aaron to remove -verify only. That only performs a verify only. I think she's trying to troll you and overwrite your databases.
It could be.
That's my thought.
I'm not gonna take the chance. She said copy the command on line 62. That's what I did. I copied the command on line 62. It looks safe. All right, enough about that. That was the easy peasy. Let's get started. Let's see, we're already 20 some odd minutes in here. Let's have some fun, actually. And we're going to play around with our friend OutGridView once again. This is a wall of text command, and it needs to be. And you don't need to worry about it because all you have to do is trust that it works and that these queries are perfect. Because I got it from this MS SQL tip article on how to determine SQL Server memory use by database and object.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure that guy's got it perfectly right and didn't get anything wrong. I sure hope not, because I've been demoing it for like 3 months now. I'm pretty sure the person who wrote that tip is watching. So. So anyways, back to this. Brent, have you ever been in a situation where users tell you everything was fine? Everything was fine.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom,
Out of
someone
nowhere.
ran something on the database and everything just forget about it. It went just gone, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Me too. In fact, I actually had that situation happen with a customer, and if I would have had this command that I'm about to show you in a minute, I'd have been able to find what the root cause was just so much faster. Instead, the query had already ended, and they were in a memory-constrained environment, and the plan got evicted from the cache very quickly because they were an online. Yeah. So it was a pain in the butt to go track that down. In the background, I just kicked off a SQL script. I'm actually trying to catch myself mid-query of the bad query that is killing my performance. I'm using clustered column store tables, and I had to craft the query very specifically to get it to scan the entire table.
Yeah, sure.
The thing about those clustered column stores, you run queries against them, and they just use up like 5 megabytes, and you're like, dang it, I'm trying to, this should have been monumental, and it only took 5 megabytes. What's going wrong here? So it was actually kind of harder to build the demo than I thought. Don't worry too much about what the wall of text is here. I'm basically doing 3 different commands
Crappy
and
queries.
Crappy query. The crappy queries.
The other one over here, yeah.
And then I'll explain. I actually explained it in a blog post, but I guess I need to do like a whole video on what's going on here. But that's not the part I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on the cool part, which is squarified tree maps, which are different than traditional tree maps because squarified tree maps are the ones where even as they get larger, the color could be different based on another dimension value that you pipe into them. I'm not actually going to use it in that way, but I learned that as I was building this demo. So it's still executing the query, but I think it's far enough along that I should be able to do it. We'll see if the buffer space used query runs quickly. There we go. So buffer space used, I can see that the airstats database is the one taking up the most amount of space. Obviously, this is just demo environment, 186 megabytes, but this could be 186 gigabytes. I might have just ran all the other databases off out of the system, and I know my problem's in this database. So I actually took the next query in that MS SQL tip, and I sequenced it to accept the output of this one. So now that I know which database I am looking into, I want to go look at all the objects in that database and find out which objects are taking up the most space in the buffer pool. I'm going to mix up buffer pool and plan cache pool by the time this demo is done. But so now I can take a look here, and boom, okay, there's your problem, right? This one is clearly taking up 10 times as much space as anything else, right? That's got to be it. I sequenced in one more thing. I wanted to say, grab me all the queries that are in the plan cache right now. And so it goes and grabs them and pulls them back, and because of XML and PowerShell working together fairly niftily, I can just pass that index name straight into this query, and it should all work out. Still trying to work on the visualization. There it goes. Here are all the queries that are touching the index that I just looked at. So basically I said, this index is sucking up a lot of space. Give me any query that has that index anywhere in its plan. Here's the query text itself, and here's the query plan. I can then take this, literally I added to this, but I'm not going to show it today. You could just click and say, dump this out to a SQL query or a plan, and analyze it in Management Studio. So that's actually not the fun part. Here's the fun part. We're going to do everything again, and we're going to get those buffer pools, and we're going to go to those tree maps, just like we have on that opener slide. The blog post. And boom, there we go. I simplified it. I took some of the text off the screen, so it's not too much. I didn't know what it was going to look like over the web presentation.
That's nice. Yeah.
So basically, I know that my airstats database is the problem, and when I hover over it, I can see that it's using 40,000 pages. If I look at this database, it's only using 13. I've focused in. I know that my problem is over here. So when I click on this, it actually runs that other query again, goes interrogates that other database, and comes and gives me the information back visually. So now I know this is the index on the table, which is the clustered column store in this particular case, and this one is my problem child, and any query touching that is the one I want, or the ones I want. It's one of those. That's all I got to do. So this is one of the ways that you can use PowerShell to go looking for things, not just writing scripts and doing things that you had planned to do and automating everything that you had planned. You can call an audible with it and use this and go find something. And I thought I had maybe contrived this example a little too much, but I demoed it at the local user group, and one of the guys I know, one of the local speakers, he said the next user group meeting, he's like, dude, thank you for posting that. We had that exact scenario come up. Someone ran a query. Everyone was like offline. None of the cubes would build. Everything's terrible. And I was like, I'm gonna go catch that person. And he ran it, and he found it. He found the query, and it was his query.
Well, at least he knows. I mean, then he can say,
like,
you do the classic, I solved the problem, it won't happen again.
Exactly. So even as that's kind of a little bit of a contrived example, it still actually works.
No, it's true.
Production environment.
Yeah.
So that's one way that you could use PowerShell. Here's another way I think you might use, even in a single server, you might have to do an upgrade, right? What's
that?
Even if you have customers who only have a single server, you might be in the scenario of helping with an upgrade? No,
I don't.
What about if...
most people do. I'm not your perfect target audience here.
Okay, so what if they call you in after they did the upgrade and they say it's not running like the old one did?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, totally, for sure.
Okay, so in that case...
Literally last week.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could check the settings on the old one and see line for line?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, good. So we've got this. We're going to use Chrissy's connect DBA SQL Server, which is like as if we did a get SQL instance and that commandlet actually worked. They'll be fixing that soon, don't worry. But the demo finishes with one of her examples anyway, so I figure we'll just start off using her stuff. We're going to grab basically the whole node. So when we say get the SQL Server, we are basically saying get this and give me access to everything below it, if that makes sense. So we're going to go grab the server object just like in Management Studio, and we want to grab that. And this is a variable here in PowerShell, a $, anything. When it comes up in red text in the IIC, that's how I know I did it right. If you know the progression of variables in SQL Server, variables, they used to be you declare the variable, you give it a data type, and then you move on and you set that variable to equal to something.
A value.
Right? Mm-hmm. Right. And then I think it was 2008, they came out and they said, well, now you can declare it and set it to something all in the same statement, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. So PowerShell has taken it 2 steps further. Three. One, they don't need you to declare. You just say server default, and if server default doesn't exist, it goes basically. It's actually like it's called an alias drive. It goes and says, variable drive. It goes and looks and see if it exists, and if it doesn't exist, it goes ahead and spins it up. And if it does exist, and I say set it equal to this, it just overwrites it. Okay. The other thing that it does is it inherits the data type from whatever I'm pushing into it. So I don't have to say that it's an int or whatever. In this case, it's an Microsoft.SQLServer.smo.server instance.something. And I don't need to worry about that. It takes care of all of that for me. And it's going to do that for me both times. And then we're going to grab both. We're going to grab my localhost, and we're going to do SQL 2016. And then I don't know if you see the comments here. In my code. Chrissy likes it when I frame it a little better so that there's less stuff on the screen. I say SMO is hard, all right? SMO is real hard. It's difficult. I mean, you've been using it for, I don't know, I think the survey said a lot of, half the people have been doing their job or working with databases for over 11 years. So SMO is hard. You've been working with this for 11 years, but SMO is hard. what did we want to do? We want to get the configuration. Well, we just hit that. It auto-completes. In this case, I'll give you a shortcut to it. We want the properties of the configuration. And we can go ahead and do that, and it will grab it from the server default object that we just spun up. So we can just redo it. We put it into that variable, and then we say, give me that information, and it goes ahead and gives it to me. Now, that's not what database people are used to looking at. That's something called format list, and I hate it like the plague. And in this case, I'm going to pipe it to something that I can read, and I'm going to say format table, and I'm going to say go ahead and give me an auto size on it. And let me actually bring it down just a little bit in size of the font, just to give it a little more space to work with. And then I'm going to go ahead, clear that out. I'm going to say, give me that. Give me the information that way. And now you might recognize this a lot better. That looks a lot more like SPconfigure, right? Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'm only interested in what the display name is here. Oops, sorry. Stupid ISE tricks. Display name and what its current running value is. I don't care what the maximum, minimum is, just what it is and what it's set to right now. And I'm going to grab it from my default instance and my 2016 instance. I'm going to pipe it over to this select object, which we'll just narrow it down to those two things, and then I'm going to use this compare object, and I'm going to say, here's my reference, here's my difference, and show me them, and it goes off screen here, and I say pipe it over to OutGrid View, because I love OutGrid View, can't get enough of that thing, and blows me up. Oh, sorry, I didn't run the first two. Slightly ahead of myself. I got to run these first. And this is kind of broken down. I wouldn't necessarily do it exactly this way in my real code, but it's broken down so that you can kind of reassemble it yourself and see how it works and play around with it. But I'll go ahead and run that now, and boom, there we go. And I wish it was a little more robust, but basically their intent is that you go from the reference to the difference, and so you're pushing from reference to difference, and but it lets me know that here are my settings that are different. So it's got a side indicator, so I can sort like that. These are on one. These are all the ones on the other. With my OutGrid view, I love being able to pass things down the pipeline, and I could just, say, take these, push it over to the other server, hit the OK button. That would work. I would be kind of extending it a little further than I probably should. At the end of the day, I think you really a lot of times want to just go ahead and grab your configuration and push it over to the other one, or even back it up and save it off. And there's this whole reinventing the wheel that I try to avoid doing. And Chrissy has already built a darn good wheel in the DBA Tools module. Copy SPconfigure, and does just that for you. There's also commands for exporting and importing the configuration, so you could export a configuration ahead of time. Then when you're ready to build your server, you could import the configuration and set all the settings where you need to.
Now, for those of you who are in Alex's earlier session talking about how you do more agile infrastructure, this is a great example of that. Is how do you treat infrastructure more like code?
Yep, absolutely. I was actually kind of thinking right then, I was like, oh man, wouldn't that have been perfect if he had just had that talk, that same audience, and then I hop on here with these kind of things. And I was like, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But
very close.
It was a great talk.
Stack Overflow's Greg Bray says we use exactly the same kind of thing over at Stack Overflow.
And I should point out, this will migrate darn near, or if not, in my case, I actually proved that it could do an entire instance of SQL Server. There's so many commands in here. Copy over your custom error messages, your SPconfigure, your max memory setting, your tempdb configuration. It'll copy over your logins. It'll sync your logins. If we have time, we'll cover that one. That's a very cool one. Your server object endpoints. It'll copy over your policy management, extended events, all these different things. Central management server. I'm a huge fan of central management and registered servers. it'll do this. So you can migrate almost an entire database just by going over to the DBA Tools website and taking a look at this Start SQL Migration command. I definitely would recommend you start playing around with a blank instance and maybe copy your dev server over to the blank instance. Be practical about these things. But highly recommend that people check that out. If you're not, especially if you have more than one server to move, but even if you only have one, this does the checks for you. It tells you what's the different object and lets you get on about things. All right, so we compared SP configure. Let's go to failed agent jobs. This one I'm thinking even Brent might need, even on a single server.
Even Brent.
Even Brent, maybe. All right, so I'm going to get my SQL agent, and I've got multiple SQL agents on here. I'm going to go get the jobs from them. I'm going to just point them to Out Grid View because I like Out Grid View and I like to look at that thing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to come up, and I'm going to point out to you just by doing that default of going and getting my SQL agent jobs. I have a bunch of them on here, and then piping them out to Out Grid View. Is that more or less information than you get in Management Studio, Brent?
I think date created and date modified, I don't think are in by default.
Right. You can't.
And last run duration, I don't think is in by default.
Yeah. So if you take a look at these things, should have just done databases. We go into SQL Server Agent, look at jobs, and we hit F7, Object Explorer. Love that thing. Actually, doesn't really do us any good. We can't really add any more information here. And all we get is running or not. That's it. And by default, just out of the box, boom, you've already got more information than you had over there. That's cool. That's great. But what else can it do? That's not it, is it? Well, actually, whoever was programming it, they came up with something pretty darn nifty. Let me see if I can span this out a little, make it look a little not overwhelming. I'm going to take a look and say, all right, I already got this in here. I'm going to look at my local host. I'm going to go to all the SQL agent jobs, and I want to look for the jobs where they are enabled, where is enabled is true, and where the last run outcome is failed. If they failed 3 days ago or whenever, but then they succeeded the next time, I don't care. All right, someone fixed it. But if the last time they ran and they failed, I want to know about it. Okay? I go ahead and run this, and boom, here we go. My fancy import job has failed. I removed a database. All these started failing. I was playing around with another demo for another session, and boom, there I know which ones have failed. How could you make that better? It doesn't get any better than that. It's pretty simple, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you can get even better. So let me just go up here and just set this one. If you have a lot of SQL servers, this will be more relevant. But even if you only have a few, this will still work. Mm-hmm. You see, when I do get SQL agent job history, and I point it at my localhost in this case, I've got this since command, and it's very cool. In PowerShell, when we've got this stuff called tab completion, so I can hit the tab key here, and it completes that for me. And then when I hit the space key, it gives me all the available options on this particular command because they actually went to the work of setting that up. And my options are to look for everything for the last month, since the last week, since midnight, and since yesterday. So if I come in, Tuesday morning, Friday morning, and I want to know everything that, happened since last night, or, even give me yesterday too, and I want to know what happened, I can just throw that yesterday switch. I don't have to know complicated information about time spans or anything like that, or date diffing. I can just say that, and it says, all right, here is everything that happened, every single execution, and there were a lot of them. Anytime that I need to know stuff like this, I'm just calling an audible here. If I'm like, wow, that was a lot of job execution since yesterday, I can pipe my output to measure, and it'll tell me, yeah, 260 job executions since yesterday. And you, like I said, you can do midnight, you can do last week. If you want to see that list again, just go back there. You can hit the control in the spacebar, and it'll do this for you. I saw this last month, last week, yesterday, midnight. I was like, this is really good. This is good. This doesn't get any better. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
It gets better. Brilliant. I can't believe they didn't think of this. They should add since Friday at 5 p.m. That way I walk in on Monday morning, I just hit the since Friday at 5 p.m., and I know what happened over the weekend.
Yep.
And I told them that, and they can't do that. I'm like, can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? This is brilliant. How brilliant is that?
Mm-hmm.
And not every country in the world is the last work day of the week.
Oh, that's true. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Seemed brilliant at the time. Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So there, that can help you. And it's pretty simple syntax. You know, the thing about if you don't know PowerShell, all you need to know is there's a get agent, and you can just say get help. In this case, I'm going to say I want the full, and I want this SQL agent job history. And even if I don't know how to go about executing that command, I can go get that information. And one of the great things is it includes examples of how to run the command, so that you get some ideas on how to do it.
Now, Wes asks, is there an easy way to scroll through lots of servers with this? Can I like cycle through this exact same command across all my servers?
That is a genius question.
Right? I had a feeling you would be winding up that softball.
Yep. So right here, have you ever heard of registered servers? And have you ever noticed how they're in Management Studio? You know, I locate them right near Object Explorer. And if you take a look at my host, I can go into my database engine, local server group, host. Hey, there's some SQL instances here. I could put folders underneath of this. Let me just break this out here and say, let's go into a new window, clear up my output. When I go into SQL Server, I can go into my SQL registrations, and of course I had to use the full name in this because like that's what you're supposed to do in PowerShell. You're not supposed to make it cryptic. You're supposed to use the full name, but that's a lot more typing sometimes. Database engine server group is where registered servers are, and then I'm going to go into host. So let me just back that up just a little bit. I'm going to say dir here. I'm going to say dir of SQL Server and my registration, and it's going to give me my options: central management server or database engine server group. I've got those right there. So if I do this command again, do a dir on there, I see those folders just like I had there. I then take this folder, put it here because that's where I want to do things today. And I've actually, you see, it's already looked in there and it knows these are the two that you can pick from, and you can say that right now. I can say dir and it will give me all of them, and I can also say dir and do recurse. PowerShell MVPs around the world are just, they're puking right now because I keep on using dir and they're like, use get child item. And the thing is, that's technically the command that's going on behind the scenes. I'm using an alias, but everyone knows dir, right? So, or ls, and I can do ls. That's all I need to do. If I want to do ls, I can do that, and it gives me the same answer. So the PowerShell MVPs are having a heart attack right now. But the good news is that you can access those, you can get that information, and we're going to take it, and we have to throw this where mode does not equal D, because if we have any subfolders, it would essentially say, oh, you want a subfolder named, you know, Austin Data Center. No, I don't want that. So we say ignore the mode equals D. In this case, I said pass it out grid view. I'm actually going to pass up the chance to do another out grid view one. And basically, I've actually copied the command that we had up there earlier where I said go to the SQL agent and get me the jobs and where they're enabled, and the last outcome was failed, and I want to know about all of them. I'm just going to look through every server that I have. And here they come. It's going to go look through them, and one at a time, so one instance of SQL Server at a time. Hope I turned on all my SQL agents. I probably didn't. Yep, sure enough. That would have helped. This demo would go a lot faster if all the SQL agents were turned on.
Well, while you start them, what version of PowerShell are you running? Folks want to know.
So I run on version 5.1,
okay,
and I love it, and you should use it if you can. the out-grid view and the pass-through all works on version 3.0 and above. 3.0 is when the ISE, the scripting environment that I'm in, actually started working really well. Oh, I was trying to play with another demo and I actually killed this demo. So pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That would normally work if I hadn't played with that other demo. But there you go. So yeah, you can run through all your instances. You get the idea. I promise it works. Here, very quickly, slightly contrived example. Sorry, can you hear that? I've got the window open because it's so warm. I hope I didn't hear that jet passing by.
No, that was the first news. I didn't know if it was a jet or a dog just then.
Yep. So get SQL Error Log. We now have an easy way to grab our error logs from our SQL instances very nicely. It has this since last week, last month, since yesterday, all that kind of stuff. So let's say I want to say last week. I'm going to pass it to out-grid view. I'm going to throw the pass-through on here. And once it's done, I want to keep all my results. And I don't know how many results are going to come back. I didn't really test this demo. We'll see. Usually there's a lot because I play around with some hackathon stuff, and I have found some edge cases in it. I won't go into that now, but I have found them. Now I just got my error logs from multiple machines, and I had it filtered down to just the stuff within the last week. If I look to the right, I can see my server instance name there. That'll let me know which instance that error message came from. That way, if I, when I take this in a minute and I go and stick it into a table, I'll be able to track down where that error came from. If I go up here and I say, I just,
Whoa.
Sorry?
No, just looking at the error log. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. This is even better. I'm just going to type in the word memory in the out-grid view, and it's going to filter it down to all the memory issues that I have on my machine that I've been able to reproduce the last week, right? Nice. Which there are quite a few of them, you will see, right? But it's important troubleshooting information, and I want it, so I hit Control-A, and it actually takes, there's so many of them, that it actually takes a second to be able to go and grab all that. Come on, there you go, right? Oops. I shouldn't have moved off there.
Boom.
There it goes. It's finished.
There it goes.
Pro tip: if you've got like 10,000 error messages, this demo probably
it
not
takes a while to select
to impress people. Come on, give me back
folks in Slack are talking about how to do it with an email, like repeatedly, and Drew and Chrissy are in there talking about that. So yeah.
I've actually got an old MS SQL tip that didn't get published, and I was thinking about publishing it on my blog just to help people. It's actually take query results and email them, and so, but it's written the old way. So, but it's a funny thing is the hits on my blog are for some of the old commands, and it's like, do I publish this? Because I'll probably get more hits if I do it that way, but it's still old information. It's I better rewrite the whole thing and say do it this way instead of that way.
People be using old stuff. I mean, like they're still running 2005, 2008 in production, so
yeah,
still the biggest releases.
Yeah, this was apparently the wrong demo to show. I'm going to
not responding.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and kill that. I've demoed that so many times over the last couple months. It's run slow. It's never run that slow. So and I killed the studio. Remind me, I now have 2 transcript files.
Okay.
Because otherwise I'll forget. All right, so enough of that. Let's just pretend that it worked. No,
It works.
We'll do it real fast. We'll just do it real small. We'll do since yesterday, or since midnight. That'll be a lot easier. And I will go ahead and fire that off.
Drew says ISE crash, 10 points for Gryffindor.
Out of all the times that I've done this demo recently, I have not even, I've had it pause, but never, actually crash, where it did there. You shouldn't really be doing that kind of stuff that much data pulling back from your server and then doing it in a GUI. You should use like syntax to filter down and say put a where clause on there and say only given the memory errors. So it's probably good that it failed on something that's kind of a worse practice.
Drew also says out grid view eats the RAMs too.
Yeah, probably not helping very much at all here. But hopefully that should be off and baking a new table for us in my SQL Server instance, and we'll have another one. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next demo, and then we'll see if it actually worked here in a minute. Have I piqued your interest, Brent, at all? You think this could ever come in handy when you're just like, I want the easy button?
If I was in a shop if I had to manage a bunch of servers again, if I was the enterprise DBA again, I would be in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're interested and you want to know more, I'm going to have to open this in another tab. Dang it. New PowerShell tab. Command. Script. Oh, my buttons. Hidden. There. Now I got 3 transcripts.
This is like a drinking game.
Dang it, it is. It's getting that way. If we want to look around and find out some more of this stuff yourself, the 4 horsemen that I told you about earlier, you can use get command, throw the dash module, and say, I want to know only about commands that are in the SQL Server module, and you don't have to throw on the commandlet type. You could just say, give me the commands that are in the SQL Server module, and let me know about them. And it will give you the full list of them, and you can take a look through here. Obviously, you could pipe that to out grid view and play around with it and sort it and look for commands with certain names that you want. Maybe you're trying to do a certain thing. And see what else in here. Oh, reporting services tools. I'm not going to cover this today, but they put out a module. You should go check it out. It's out on GitHub, and it's got 20 some odd commands on it. This one, write RS folder content, and I tell it where my SSRS server is, right? And then I tell it the location of some reports that I want to deploy, and I go and I create a folder, and I say destination is, the root plus Brent, and I say go deploy this folder on my SSRS, and it'll, if we go take a look at this folder real quick, it'll take all of the reports in that folder with just a single command, no looping, nothing special going on. It'll take all of these report objects and, the RDLs and the reports, step away from reporting services for 2 weeks and you suddenly forget the components there. The data sets, that's it, the data sets. And it will deploy all of them to your reporting services server for you. And I want to point this out because this is something that helps you speed up development. This isn't just an administration thing. You've got a new version to deploy. You want to make sure all the latest version of the reports are deployed. You can do it with this one command that all you have to do is pass it 3 parameters. So there is that one. Just want to call that out. See if I can go back here. Okay, finally finished. And we wrote my table. Now I'm going to go see, did I actually land a table in TempDB? And see if I've got rows in there. Yes, 1,211. And I just want to go ahead and see them. Yes, if you want to say, I don't believe you, it doesn't really exist there, you're playing parlor tricks, I can go over to TempDB. And in a moment, there we go, memory errors table. Data space used right there. Ooh. Tables. There we go, 1,211 rows. So put my table there. And keep in mind the table didn't exist, right? So it went ahead and created the table for me, and it named all the columns for me based on what I was inputting into there, and went ahead and loaded all the data for me. So it took care of a lot all in one fell swoop. And that's by adding on this dash force parameter here at the end with this write SQL table data. And once I have the table created, I can now remove that, and then I could continue to pump in more data. Let's see what else we got here. Last one, and I'm just trying to do a good coverage of what was presented recently, or what was added to the list of commandlets recently.
Okay.
And get SQL login, add SQL login, and remove SQL login. Those are three that we got. Let me clean this up a little, make it a little more presentable. If I want to move my Windows users from my local host over to my 2016 instance, it's actually really easy to do. I can do that, no big deal. Hopefully, like normally you would be able to pipe directly into the commandlet. I shouldn't need this for each loop. They didn't include pipeline support on this particular one in version 1, but I did ask them, and they said, all right, on the list. But it's a long list, right? So no idea when they're going to get back to it. But that's a great thing to point out, that this is a version 1 thing, and it does have, you know, a limitation to it, but they're not going to let it sit there. They're going to come back to it, and they're going to fix it up, and they're going to add pipeline support to it. But if I wanted to, I could run this and be able to take every single Windows login from one of my SQL Server instances and say, these are the ones that don't exist on the other one. I already did that comparison, figured that out. Say click OK, and it will go ahead and push all of them over onto the other instance once I click the OK, because the next command in the sequence is add SQL login. And instead of doing that, I'm actually going to hit cancel, because if I do that, then I got to go delete everything, and I won't have the demo set up for next time, and I'll forget about it. So I'm just going to hit cancel this one. I promise it works. On Windows logins, no problem. Windows groups, same thing. If you do a SQL login, here are your different options. So you can do asymmetric keys, certificate, external group, external user, SQL login, Windows group, Windows user. If you do a SQL login, you actually do, when you add the SQL login, you need to know the password in this version of the commandlet. So you'd have to type it in interactively while it was going through and running. If you did 5 logins, you have to know the password to each one of those 5 logins. Limitation, again, version 1, they'll come back and take care of that later. There was a valid reason why they were having issues doing that, and they wanted to be secure. So yeah, better don't put out stuff that's going to break stuff. That's fine. Copy SQL login. Once again, DBA Tools got you covered. There is a copy SQL login, which will basically copy all your SQL logins from one instance to another. And the very cool thing about it is, a couple weeks down the road, you set up, you're ready to do the migration, they wave it off. They're like, no, we're not doing the migration this week. We canceled it. And you're like, but I'm ready to go. They're like, no, something's wrong. We're not doing it this weekend. 2 weeks later, you come back. Well, are you going to tear down the entire machine? Or are you going to try and just send over the changes that happened in the last week? No one was supposed to be changing things, but of course, well, they had to fix the problem, so, you know, something got changed. So this sync only right here, it doesn't add any additional logins. If I have a login on the old instance that's not on the new, it's not going to move that over, but it is going to take all the changes that occurred to the logins that are already moved, and it's going to move those over. And it's actually pretty cool. There's this what if switch that you can use in PowerShell that'll tell you, if I ran this, what exactly would happen? And if I run that, it'll go ahead and give me some good output. It'll compare each one of those one by one, go get the information and say, well, if you did it, you would do this one, and give you the full rundown of what exactly was happening, which is great because then you can look before you leap, and I always would recommend that.
Yeah, sure.
And just so that we're clear, that is something that is fixed in 2016 and above. So download SQL Server 2016 Management Studio. You can get the latest one very easily. Go to DL, doesn't get it, download, doesn't get any easier than that. And you'll be able to download the latest version of it. That what if parameter, if you try to use it in the old SQL PS from 2014, it'll say, what if? I'll show you what if, and it'll just run the command for it.
Oh,
So yeah, a little bit of a problem there. So be advised about that. Chrissy's command doesn't have that problem because she never wrote her stuff to ignore that. She's supported what if for a long time. Uh, but just, in case you are on the old version, that's kind of one of the stress points about why you should go ahead and upgrade to Management Studio 2016 so that you can get these new commandlets. Because then you'll have not just the new commandlets, you also have the fixes. What else to cover? Yes, the commandlets, they only come in Management Studio at the moment. They're not in SQL Agent Job steps yet. And I was pretty emphatic that don't just go adding them. If you're going to go do anything with SQL Agent, there's some other problems in there that I would like you to fix. And please don't add any new commandlets there until you fix those other things, because they're kind of small. They're small, but they are stumbling blocks, and people are going to stumble, and then they're going to hate it. And like, let's just tell people not to go there now. And that's why in that article last week, I said, don't go putting this in your SQL agents. I'm not advocating for that. I'm advocating for if you have to do an ad hoc, backup of your databases or a couple databases to go and do it that way. So.
a couple of good questions around that. Jody asks that test the last database backup, test DB last backup. Does it work with encrypted backups?
Ask Chrissy. She's if she's apparently in the Slack channel. It's her command.
All right, I'll pop down in the Slack and see if she answers.
Yep.
Michael says, "Oh, good Lord, this is a long question." Obviously, table this for the end, but based on my testing and research, there's a backwards compatibility issue with using the SQL path that generates extraneous WMI errors. He's got a connect item link.
Yeah, there are some people have it. I do not have that issue, and I was like, what is that? Was it Monty Python, where it's like, it's against my religion to believe in dragons, so I don't see the dragon, right? So like, it doesn't error on my machine, and I was just going through happy as a clam, and never ran into anything. And then I did a pre-con out in Portland, and man, out of 18 people at the pre-con, 6 of them had the error. So it was like 1 in 3. I was like, oh, this really does exist. A lot. Not just a little, a lot. So yeah, it's out there. They're working on it. I know they had found something.
Okay.
I'm going to cut it off there. But yeah, they have found something, and they're working on it. So that's what I'll say about that. And after that, being able to see it so many times from so many people and getting so many different data points about how their machine was configured, because I was in a room with them for the entire day, I was able to take that right back to them and say, hey, this really is as big, it is big or bigger, and we need to get on this.
Funny.
So I'd love to take questions. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just put up the PowerShell virtual chapter of PASS YouTube channel, and show you some of the video topics that we've got for PowerShell, so that if this has got your mind going and you're like, well, that's great, but I would only be interested in it if I could hack a SQL server with PowerShell. Well, yes, we've got that right here. We've got a video on that.
It is a super active community. The PowerShell community is so strong with SQL Server. R.L. Dawson and Chrissy both say that they haven't tested it, but if SSMS can do it, then DBA Tools can do it, since they're both SMO driven. They think the answer is yes, as long as you have backup encryption on as the default. Well, that's the last question that we had. You guys feel free to throw in additional questions. In the meantime, I'm going to thank Aaron for presenting here. Big round of virtual applause for Aaron presenting this afternoon, sharing his time with us. Let's see if you guys have any other questions there. Oh, I should have looked out Twitter.
I'm happy to go as long as, and show other things. And Brent, feel free to chime in with your own questions about anything, even off the wall that you've heard people maybe use PowerShell for. Sometimes some people get a little carried away with it, I will admit. They get a little happy with things and do things maybe they shouldn't do. I've done it once or twice and then thought, that wasn't a good idea.
When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Yep.
That's a great point. So if T-SQL is your thing, right? That's your jam, right? And that's the way you want to do things. I love SQL Server. I want to be back in SQL Server and doing things in SQL Server. And that's why I know PowerShell. So I can do those things that involve my job of not working with SQL Server, and I can do them very quickly and get them done and get back over to working with SQL Server as quickly as possible. There was an Android commercial not too long ago that made me think of this point, and let me see if I can go grab it really quickly. Because PowerShell, thinking that it is a hammer, it doesn't really get the point of what you can do with it. PowerShell is an automation language, and it is capable of automating other automation languages for you. And if you've got some other tool, like a Redgate tool that has an automation capability to it, you can then use PowerShell and automate your SQL Server stuff and this Redgate tool stuff. And then, God forbid you have a SharePoint website. There are commandlets for SharePoint websites as well. There are all kinds of things that you can do with PowerShell, and it's one language that you have to worry about. And it makes it a lot easier to have to sit there and deal with when you're having to work outside of something that's not really where you wanted to be in the first place. And finally found the video. Let me pull this over real quick. Oops, it started playing before a minute too. And I'm going to pause here so that anyone who doesn't understand what's going on here, the piano on the right has been tuned to do a single key, a mid-tone C, and that's all it's doing. And he's playing the exact same song, but it's all going on the same key, and it's completely different, obviously. Well, if you only know T-SQL, you're the person on the right, and if you know PowerShell, you're the piano on the left, and you can do a lot more. And be careful, don't show them you can do too much more because you want to get back to T-SQL, I get it. But you're able to do so much more because it's an automation language that automates other languages, and that's why it's so useful. Just love it. Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool, very cool.
And the funnest part about that is, right? What do they call the part of the hammer? Damn it! I just gave it away. What do they call the part of the piano that causes the noise?
Strikes the hammer. Yep.
The chord. It's a hammer. Yeah. So.
Tim says, are there any recommended books or video training that you would start at to start learning PowerShell?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, that's it. No, just kidding.
We have a runaway hit, PowerShell Fundamentals, on here. Mike Robbins, sorry. He did it, and it has got more views than anything else on our channel. You'd think I'd be able to spot it really quick. I don't actually see it. He did an alternate version of the same session, and it's getting started with PowerShell for SQL Server. I think that's the name of it there. And there it is, PowerShell Fundamentals for BC, 12,000 views. So, some of these other ones that are very cool, 700 views.
Yeah, you
can. And this one's 12,000. No, you can't.
Well, thanks so much for volunteering to speak today at GroupBy. We really appreciate the time. Thanks, everybody, for coming and hanging out with us. See you again soon.